I stood in my father's office that Monday morning watching him sign away 14 years of my life to my brother. Derek sat on the leather couch behind me and I could feel his smirk without even turning around. My father looked up from the documents and said 5 words that shattered everything I believed about family. Pack your things by Friday. I glanced at the photo of my mother on his desk, the woman who made me promise to protect this family, then walked out without saying a single word. Before we dive into this story, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If you have ever given your heart to something only to have it taken away, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Have you ever been overlooked by someone who should have seen your worth? Stay with me because what happened 6 months later changed everything I believed about family and success. My name is Kenny, and I need to take you back to the beginning so you understand just how deep this betrayal cut. Growing up, my brother Derek and I could not have been more different. From the time I was a kid, I was fascinated by what my father did. He owned a mid-sized construction and home renovation company in the suburbs of Ohio, and to me, it was the most exciting thing in the world. While other kids spent their summers at camp or playing video games, I begged my father to take me to job sites. I was 14 years old the first summer I officially worked for him. I started with the basics, learning how to read blueprints, calculate material costs, and communicate with clients. I remember the calluses forming on my hands and feeling proud of every single one. Derek, on the other hand, wanted nothing to do with the sawdust and concrete. He was 3 years older than me, the firstborn son, and my father treated him like royalty from day one. Derek went to college for marketing and moved to Columbus to work for some advertising agency. He would show up at family gatherings in expensive suits and complain about how the construction business was beneath him. Too dirty, he would say. Not sophisticated enough for someone with his education. After I graduated from college with a degree in business administration, I came straight back to work for my father full-time. I poured everything I had into that company. Over the next 14 years, I helped grow the business from 8 employees to 35. I built relationships with 3 different banks to secure stable financing. I created a training program for young workers entering the trade. I stayed late, came in early, and sacrificed more weekends than I can count. There was one project I will never forget. We were renovating a local elementary school and our subcontractor abandoned us halfway through. The deadline was 3 days away and the school board was threatening to sue. I worked 72 hours straight, barely sleeping personally, finishing the tile work in the bathrooms and the painting in the classrooms. We made the deadline. My father nodded at me when it was done, but he never said thank you. He never said he was proud. My mother passed away 8 years ago from cancer. Before she died, she held my hand and whispered something I have carried with me ever since. "Take care of your father and the business," she said. "You are the heart of this family." I made her a promise that day and I intended to keep it no matter what. Then, 3 months before everything fell apart, Derek suddenly quit his fancy job in Columbus and came home. He walked into my father's office and announced that he wanted to learn the family business. He said he had finally realized where his heart truly belonged. My father was overjoyed. He threw a dinner party to celebrate Derek's return, something he had never done for any of my accomplishments. At first, I tried to be optimistic. Maybe Derek had genuinely changed. Maybe having my brother involved would be a good thing. But within weeks, I started noticing things that made my stomach turn. My father began inviting Derek to important meetings that had always been just the 2 of us. Derek would sit there, barely understanding what we were discussing, and offer opinions that made no sense. My father agreed with every single one. I watched as some of our longest tenured employees were quietly encouraged to start taking orders from Derek instead of me. One evening, I stayed late at the office to finish some paperwork. I was walking past my father's door when I heard voices inside. I stopped and listened, my heart pounding in my chest. "Do not worry, son," my father said. "I will make sure everything is in your name. Kenny will understand. He is strong. He will be fine." I stood frozen behind that door, feeling like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating. 14 years. 14 years of blood, sweat, and sacrifice, and my father was planning to give it all to a man who had never lifted a finger. That Monday morning in my father's office, I finally understood what was happening. The papers on his desk were not just any documents. They were ownership transfer agreements. Legal paperwork that would make Derek the sole owner and CEO of the company my father had built and I had helped grow for over a decade. My father cleared his throat and spoke in a tone that was meant to sound authoritative but came across as rehearsed. I have made a decision about the future of the company, he said. Derek will be taking over as the owner and chief executive officer. This is the natural order of things. He is the firstborn. This is tradition. This is how it should be. I felt the room spin around me. Tradition. He was throwing away 14 years of my dedication because of tradition. Derek leaned forward on the couch, his voice dripping with false sympathy. Do not take it personally, little brother, he said. You can always work for me if you want. I am going to need someone who knows how things operate around here. I looked at my father, searching his face for any sign of regret or hesitation. There was none. He simply slid another document across the desk toward me. This explains your severance package, he said. 2 years of salary. It is more than fair. Fair. The word echoed in my head like a cruel joke. 2 years of salary for 14 years of my life. 2 years of salary for building his client relationships, training his workers, saving his projects when everything went wrong. 2 years of salary for keeping the promise I made to my dying mother. I thought about screaming. I thought about flipping his desk over and telling him exactly what I thought of his precious tradition. I thought about listing every single sacrifice I had made, every holiday I had missed, every relationship I had neglected because I was too busy saving his company. Instead, I stood up slowly. I looked my father directly in the eyes and I said 2 words. I understand. His eyebrows lifted slightly. He had clearly expected a fight. Derek laughed from the couch. See, Dad, I told you he would be fine. I walked out of that office without another word. I went to my desk, the desk where I had spent countless hours over the years, and I picked up 3 things. A framed photograph of my mother, a worn notebook from my very first project, and a tie she had given me the day I graduated from college. I did not say goodbye to anyone. I simply walked toward the exit. Before I reached the parking lot, I heard footsteps running behind me. It was my Aunt Linda, my father's younger sister. She was the only person in my family who had ever truly seen me. She caught up to me and wrapped her arms around my shoulders, tears streaming down her face. I am so sorry, Kenny, she sobbed. I tried to talk to him. He would not listen. I begged him to reconsider, but he has always been blind when it comes to Derek. I hugged her back, trying to memorize the feeling of being held by someone who actually cared. It is okay, Aunt Linda, I said. Some things are meant to happen. She pressed a folded piece of paper into my hand. This is from my personal savings, she whispered. Take it. Use it to start over. I looked at the check and shook my head. I cannot accept this, I told her. But I kept the paper with her phone number written on the back. I had a feeling I would need someone to talk to in the days ahead. I walked to my truck and climbed inside. As I started the engine, I glanced up at the second-floor window of the building. My father was standing there watching me. For a moment, our eyes met through the glass. I waited to see if he would raise his hand, if he would show any sign that this was hard for him too. He just stood there motionless, his face unreadable. I put the truck in reverse and drove away. I did not look back again. The first week was the hardest. I went back to my small apartment and collapsed onto my bed. For 3 days I barely moved. I did not eat. I did not sleep properly. I just stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what had happened. My phone stayed silent. My father did not call to check on me. Derek did not send a single message. 14 years of being part of that family, and I had become invisible overnight. Aunt Linda called me every day. She would talk to me even when I could barely respond. She told me what was happening at the company. Derek had already started making changes. He fired 2 of our most experienced project managers and replaced them with his friends from Columbus. He switched to a cheaper supplier to cut costs. He eliminated the apprenticeship program I had built because he said it was a waste of money. One night I was lying in bed, unable to sleep, when I remembered the old notebook I had taken from my desk. I pulled it out and started flipping through the pages. It was filled with notes from my earliest days at the company, observations about clients' ideas for improvements, lessons I had learned. On the very first page I found something I had written 14 years ago in handwriting that looked so young and hopeful. One day I will build something that makes Mom proud. I read that sentence over and over and something shifted inside me. My mother was not proud of me because of the company. She was proud of who I was. She was proud of my work ethic, my integrity, my heart. Those things belonged to me. My father could not give them to Derek. No legal document could transfer them. I sat up in bed feeling something I had not felt in days. Purpose. I could build again. I could start from nothing and create something that was truly mine. The next morning I woke up before dawn for the first time since leaving the company. I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and started writing a business plan. I had no significant capital. My savings were modest, and I had refused the severance package out of pride. But I had something more valuable than money. I had 14 years of experience, relationships I had built throughout the industry, and a reputation for quality work. I decided to call my new company Solid Ground Construction. The name felt right. It represented everything I wanted to build, a foundation that could not be shaken, a business based on integrity and hard work. My first call was to Marcus, the owner of a building supply store I had worked with for years. When he heard what had happened, he did not hesitate. "Kenny," he said, "I will extend you credit on materials. Pay me when your clients pay you. I know you are good for it." That single act of faith meant everything to me. Marcus believed in me when I was struggling to believe in myself. My first real break came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Thompson was a 68-year-old widow whose roof I had repaired 5 years earlier when I was still working for my father. She called me out of the blue one afternoon. "Kenny," she said, "I need some work done on my house. I called your father's company, but that brother of yours quoted me double what you charged before, and he was rude about it too. Someone told me you started your own business. Is that true?" I drove to her house that same day. I gave her a fair quote, and I did the work myself over the following weekend. When I finished, she hugged me and said she was going to tell everyone in her neighborhood about me. She kept her word. Within 2 weeks, I had 5 more jobs lined up from her referrals alone. I reached out to 2 of the workers. Derek had fired men who had been with the company for over a decade. When I told them what I was doing, they both agreed to come work for me, even at a lower starting salary. They said they trusted me and wanted to be part of something built the right way. By the end of my second month, I had more work than I could handle. Word was spreading. "If you want quality work, call Kenny."